hear what Eddie Gein done?
Did you hear what Eddie Gein done?
Hi, I'm filmmaker and author John Borowski, and subscribe to Raised Chaos or a killer might get you.
And welcome back, everybody. My name is Raze Chaos. You've made it back to my channel, and I am here with another book review that also poses the first of two questions Raze is going to ask you this October. The first question being, did you hear what Eddie Gein done? Now, who is Eddie Gein? You know who Eddie Gein is. Whether you know him by name or by his deeds, he has made an indelible and unquestionable mark on our psyche. If you have different aspects of this man have become Hollywood or horror movie icons, and have been for a very long time. The first being Norman Bates. Eddie Gein was some of the things he did are what are portrayed in both the book and the movie of the movie Psycho and the book. Alfred Hitchcock found his story so strange that he insisted on adapting him into a movie, adapting the book into a movie. Both very, very different, although they parallel each other, and both actually bring up different aspects of Eddie Gein's life. The second is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Leatherface is based, actually not even just Leatherface. When Tobe Hooper put together the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, when he was making the house, the old Texas farmhouse, where you get to see the infamous dinner scene, his idea, his goal for that was imagining an entire family of Ed Geins, and the house itself, as disgusting as it was, is a reflection of what Ed Gein's house looked like after they arrested him, and it doesn't end there. Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs is another thing. Buffalo Bill, the man who skinned women to make a woman suit out of them. Ed Gein had a woman suit that he made himself. He didn't kill to get it. He was really more of a grave robber, and his death toll, as far as how many people he killed, only barely scratched 3 victims, one of which never completely confirmed, but also like the only thing that really makes sense. And but for the most part, he was a grave digger. He was a grave robber, and he used what he dug up to decorate his entire house. There were so many disturbing things about everything. You had hardened investigators that couldn't walk into this house when they began scouring for evidence. They couldn't help but just immediately leave. The stench of death in that house was so strong because basically he had rotting corpses all over the place. He had fashioned lampshades of human skin. He had a set of blinds that when he pulled them together, he had attached female lips to them to where it would almost be like if he stood close enough and flipped them on and off, his blinds would give him a kiss. He did everything he could imagine with the skins and body parts of everything. And lo and behold, when it all came down to it, he was a simple, simple man. He was not put to death. There was a sensational trial, but Ed Gein didn't go to prison for his crimes. He was in a assisted living. He was basically deemed unfit to stand trial for everything he did, and that's one of the reasons why that really stand out to him. For as many serial killers and homicidal maniacs that like to go for the pleading of insanity in order to avoid prison, Ed Gein did it without even trying. And later in life, he was actually in minimal security even, and a lot of the attendants and nurses that worked there would scarcely believe of what he did to get in there, and why he would never get out. They just couldn't imagine this sweet, slow old man. And when I say slow, I mean mentally. But he lived a very secluded life, even when his mother was alive, which there we go back to Norman Bates again. And the things he did made sense to him, even if they didn't make any sense to anybody else. And in his mind, he really didn't do anything wrong, but he was so incompetent in living on his own and living in this world that he thrived once he was in that structured facility that he would spend the rest of his life in. And he really wasn't the monster that everybody likes to, even now, they like to portray him as some crazy, hiding under the bed, ready to jump out at you. And while what he did was horrific enough to spawn such lore around him, the man himself was really, really, really barely worth even note. I'm going to go ahead and put this guy away so we can open this up. Getting to the actual book. This was a book I got really excited about. The names alone on here. Harold Schechter, who has written a lot of true crime stuff. And it's not even really his, all him as far as putting everything he knew into this book. He actually has a book called Deviant that he released that is solely Ed Gein. And he goes into great detail in the mindset and the actions that this man performed, and even dedicates an entire chapter on the pop culture influence that Ed Gein inadvertently had on the entire world, and why people keep revisiting what could make a man do the things that he did. And the real star of this is actually Eric Powell, who he made a name for himself with a comic book series called The Goon, which, if you have not read it, it is absolutely amazing. And he brings a similar, though slightly different tone to this book. And looking through the artwork is absolutely amazing, every bit of it. I'm putting in several shots of some of the inside of it. It's just the expressions he gives, the tone, the ash feeling to all of this. It is graphic in places, but it being in black and white and grays really kind of softens it and makes it more palpable to watch. And at the same time, able to give you that sense of just how gruesome it was. The fact that he would have jaws lined up and dead animals that, you know, maybe he killed some of it because he didn't have a problem with that, but some of it would be some of it would just be he didn't clean. He did not take care of himself. His mother always took care of the house. Once she was gone, that stopped happening. So there would just be animals that just died of old age in his house. And the gruesome discoveries that they had found. Looking at this box, they included, I'm reading right out of the book now, a box of noses, a chair upholstered in human flesh, a lampshade and wastebasket, and a drum, all made of human skin, a belt made of nipples, a knife with a bone handle and sheath made from skin, skulls on the bedposts, 4 face masks hanging from the wall. And when I say face masks, I do mean masks he made into faces, and 5 more in bags. This was a guy who was basically completely overwhelmed by the influence of his overbearing mother, and he once you got to that point of dependence that he had, because she was his mother was essentially a man-hater, and her husband was a drunk and was worthless, but she would not get rid of him and essentially smothered him to death, and essentially forced Ed Gein into a role of fulfilling he had to attempt to become a man out of spite, because men were bad in his eyes. His mother had beaten that into him, and men were disgusting. And although he tried to live up to a unattainable goal that she had set for how things should be, she always brought her hand down to make sure he could never achieve it. He would never be able to stand on his own. And when she passed on, that became very evident. And that's where his story and Norman Bates's story really parallel, where that is why he kept his mom. And I could go on, and I don't know how gruesome I'm going to end up making this video, but the artwork is just so amazing. I can't get over it. His answers to questions was part of the reasons why it was able to get there. Let me think. They have a scene. They have a whole scene where he is being questioned, and you see some of his responses would be like, that could be, when they would say, well, maybe is this how it was? And it would be, that could be. Or he'd even say, I didn't kill anyone, even though he did, in fact, was convicted on killing 2. And when they said, "Did you do this because of your mother?" and his response is, "I suppose it could be so." He really wasn't, to let you know just how detached he really was. Um, there was a situation in the crime where he actually did get discovered, uh, where he killed a woman who owned a general store. They initially thought that it was a murder for profit situation before they tracked Ed down and tracked the body down to his barn, because the cash register was taken as well. So it initially looked like a robbery gone wrong. But of course, when they followed, when they went to the Gein farm and found the woman trussed up upside down like a deer being gutted and dressed, and accused him of robbery for the cash register, he was offended because he only took the cash register because he wanted to take it apart to see how it worked. There was no financial gain in his mind. But yeah, it's a very gray and somber book, and it has an atmosphere to it that is done perfectly and could have only been done with a professional true crime author and telling the story, and a masterful artist in Eric Powell to set the stage for you. I am really kind of at a loss what else to say about this. If you can get this book, I really feel like it's worth reading. It is gruesome in places, so if you are not into more gruesome aspects of true crime, he is to be avoided, but not because he was violent or a hostile individual. It's just the level of gruesomeness that he was comfortable with is beyond what any normal person should be comfortable with. Things that were matter of fact to him are in fact the stuff of nightmares for everybody else. And I'm going to go ahead and get out of here now. I am going to go ahead and give you some more examples of the artwork in this, just to give you a sense of more of the tone of this. And but yeah, I really recommend checking this out, getting it, reading it, and going for the ride inside this, trying to understand a man who was extremely disturbed and very sympathetic at the same time. I'm not somebody who likes to make excuses for murderers, or, you know, I enjoy true crime, but I think Ed Gein is one of the few people that ever actually get any kind of sympathy out of me, because he really was just the product of what his mom had created, and then had been left to his own devices. And in a lot of ways, he was very stunted mentally. And he never actually, he very rarely, the more violent of his crimes were committed more like a child trying to avoid getting into trouble. And yeah, it's very clear by the nature of the crimes and how he committed the crimes that he did, that he really just wanted to be left alone, and at the same time didn't want to be alone. He was just a boy that wanted his mother. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, and be on the lookout for the second question that Raze Chaos has for you, coming up very, very soon, within the next week or so, because we are in October, and you know Raze leans into the creepy stuff. He likes to show the horror and the fun of Halloween and all things spooky. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Give me a like if you've enjoyed this video. This is the second book that I featured on my channel, and I don't mind doing more. I have another one that I am working on. There are actually two of them in one that I want to get into. But again, since I never know how I'm going to do these until I just sit down and start talking about it, it's like I don't know when that's going to happen. Yeah, this one was difficult just because I have read several books on Ed Gein, and trying to keep everything into just what is in this book was very difficult, because this isn't an Ed Gein video. This is a Did You Hear What Eddie Gein Done book video. So go out, check it out if you can handle it, and if you can, come back and tell me what you think of it, and tell me if it's the experience for you that it was for me reading this. Like I said, I was no stranger to Ed Gein and Ed Gein's life and deeds by the time I read this, but it really felt like an entirely new experience reading this book and getting the visuals in a somewhat muted way, as you would if you actually got like one of the many books written about his actual crimes, or even this book is not nearly as gruesome as a full-on book about Ed Gein, and it's not nearly as gory and gruesome as some of the movies that have been based around his crimes. So if anything, it's a lot easier to digest, and well worth the trip of experiencing. But I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here now. Otherwise, I'm never gonna stop. I'm gonna give you some more art examples of what's inside of this. Art examples just showing you the tone. I don't know that I'm going to put anything extremely gruesome in there, but I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, and let me know what you think of this, and never forget that life is full of odd moments, and you never know when you're going to be defined.